This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for December 10th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy hump day to everyone out there. Short turnaround as the Eagles are already getting ready for the Raiders on Sunday. More on that in a minute, but let's start with, I guess, some good news, if you want. Kyle Schwarber and the Phillies agreed to a 5-year, $150 million contract. Apparently, the 5th year was the selling point. It was guaranteed by the Phillies. Now, I like this for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, what he brings on the field. I think he is a little bit older, but he's aged well. And there have been plenty of instances in Major League Baseball history where a DH especially is able to still be productive later in the later stages of his career. Obviously, from a locker room perspective, this is great, especially with this shaping up to be almost a transition year. While the Phillies are still in the competitive window, so to speak, there likely will be a lot of changes with this team. Probably a lot of the young guys are going to come up. We expect to see Justin Crawford start in the outfield. Obviously, Andrew Painter, maybe Aiden Miller at third base, which, if you ask me, I say why not? Kind of get those guys in there around some of the vets and see what you can do with them. But his leadership does bring a lot to this locker room with that. So I like it. I do think it's too many years, but from all reports, it seemed like that was the only thing that was going to get this deal done. So I'm all right with it. And I think what you're getting here is you're getting 3, hopefully, solid, productive years from Kyle Schwarber, and then you're probably going to see a fall off for year 4 and 5 without knowing what's going to happen with the collective bargaining, whether there's going to be a salary cap, what that's going to look like. You kind of take your lumps there at the end of it. But around that same time, you're going to be dealing with the same thing with Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, so even Aaron Nola to a certain extent. So we're going to have that fall off. So it's going to be very imperative for Dave Dombrowski, Preston Mattingly, and the front office to do the right things the next couple of years as far as bringing in young guys. Would love to see like some Pat Gillick moves, bringing in a Jason Worth type player, a Shane Victorino type player. Those kind of guys that fly under the radar, Rule 5 draft, whatever. But even more importantly, in the draft, they're going to have some of these guys come up from the minors and contribute specifically within the next 4 years or so, 5 years, when these guys are probably past their prime and at the end of these contracts. So overall, I like it. I know my kids were definitely happy with it. Likely doesn't leave a ton of room to go out and sign another big name free agent. But truthfully, there wasn't a ton out there unless you're going to go super old again and go with like an Alex Bregman. But I think what they're going to end up doing is, and I think this is what the team needs anyway, is get players like a Harrison Bader. Guys that are role players but can bring a spark and bring the swag. You have your core guys now. It's Schwarber, Turner, and Harper's team. Those are the 3 core guys in this lineup. And ultimately, it's going to come down to what they do. But if you can get some guys like Harrison Bader to provide a spark, guys that do the dirty things, the intangible things that go out and steal bases, take the extra base and things like that to keep things consistent when inevitably those 3 guys are going to go cold. I think the Phillies could be in a good situation. Obviously, the Dodgers are the new Yankees. They went out and signed Edwin Diaz yesterday, so the rich get richer there. But I think from a Phillies perspective, this was a good move. Don't expect any big name free agents, but I think what we've been screaming and clamoring for a couple years now are some of those role players. A guy like Gene Segura, somebody that can just do those little things. I'm thinking kind of like I said, Shane Victorino or Jason Worth before when they first came in, that were platoon guys that played themselves into starting positions and obviously went on for better money. And I know there's a certain person out there listening right now that doesn't like it, but even having guys on the bench like an Eric Bruntling type guy who can play multiple positions, can run, can field, can get you a base hit in a pinch hit situation. So I think this is a good move, but I think it's the first domino to fall, and I need to see what Dombrowski and them have up their sleeve. Likely JT is going to be the next domino to drop. I don't think there's been a ton of interest in JT. I don't know if JT actually wants to leave anyway. So I like it. I like where we're going with this. They did extend Rob Thompson through the 2027 season, which again, that's more of a symbolic thing. If they're looking to move on from him at any point during this season, they will, but at least it gives him a little bit of comfort and security knowing that he's not a lame duck manager. But Kyle Schwarber coming back, 5 years, $150 million. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like I said, I think it's one extra year that I didn't want to spend, but by all the reports I'm seeing, that was the only way to get it done. But let me know your thoughts on Schwarber coming back, 267-495-8531. Get that. Anything else Phillies sports related off your chest. Lots to vent about with the Eagles. And speaking of those Eagles, yesterday with 68% of the vote, you guys voted the defensive line as the GOAT of the game. 7 sacks, hard to argue that. They made life miserable for Justin Herbert. And I just want to say, there was a couple people on my social media, obviously, they were Giants fans. At least one of them was a Giants fan. It didn't matter that he had the broken hand and had surgery on his hand. They were in his face. That would have been a good game plan whether or not he had the broken hand. The broken hand did not impact at all because he was still running. He ended up being their leading rusher. So miss me with the defense called a break because of his hand. Because good hand or not, they were in his face the entire time. So that's my little rant on that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. All right, so I did get a chance to kind of digest and everything, and I'm still really on the same level. Lots of blame to go around. I blame A.J. Brown. I blame Jalen Hurts. I blame the play calling with Patula. I'll get more into that here in a minute. Nick Sirianni for not having them ready. But I will say, in kind of looking at it and seeing some guys I respect break down the film, there were some positives in this game. And obviously the mistakes, which has been the issue all season with this team, really cost them, whether it was drop pass, penalties, turnovers, whatever. That really is what cost the Eagles this game. They should have ran that team out of the building. So I think from that regard, if we take a step back and look at it, and I know this is an NFL season, we don't look at things in a vacuum, but if you look at where they were 5 weeks ago when they played the Packers coming out of the bye, there has been improvement. They were able to run the ball off tackle. They were able to use the middle of the field. Granted, there was a ton of mistakes that still need to be cleaned up. Will they clean it up? I don't know at this point. If this was week 4, I would say sure, there's plenty of time. But we've seen this now consistently from this team. I don't think they're going to clean it up. Can they magically clean up some of this and still be a competitive team into the playoffs? Sure. I stand by my initial thoughts yesterday where I don't see it happening. It's now week, 15? I don't think there's anything they're going to do. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll surprise me, but we'll see what happens. I will say I'll give AJ a shout out. Despite the drops, he did take accountability for it. Said he's more than capable of doing that, and he let himself and the team down, specifically with the drops, even kind of in a roundabout way stuck up for Jalen, saying you can't put it all on him. So maybe that's a step in the right direction. Maybe I'm grasping at anything I can right now. But I feel like this has been the MO for 2 or 3 weeks now. If there's ever going to be a get-right game, it'll be against the Raiders. Lots of talk about Jalen, though. Should he have more of a leash because of what he's accomplished? I could see the argument both ways, to be honest. I think to call for his benching, which a lot of people are calling for, no. I don't think you bench Jalen Hurts. Would it maybe provide a spark? Sure. But I think having Jalen Hurts as your starting quarterback gives this team, as it's constructed, the best opportunity and best chance to win. So I'm not on that. But should he have a little bit longer of a leash? Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, this is 5 straight games of him not playing well. And I get it. Sure, he won the Super Bowl MVP. But as I said yesterday, it doesn't excuse the fact that was last year. What are you doing for it? This is a what have you done for me lately type league, and you haven't done shit lately. So we'll see. But again, are they close? I guess you could say it, but I feel like that's what we've been saying for a while. So we'll see what happens, but I will go on record and saying I don't think you bench Jalen Hurts. I saw Jeff Kerr from formerly, I think he is no longer with CBS, but either way, he posted that the backup quarterback is always the most popular guy in Philadelphia, especially in times like this, and I agree. And if Tanner McKee was what everybody thinks he could come in and do, somebody would have offered enough compensation for the Eagles to make a trade, or the Eagles would have him as a starter. So I will go on record, and I stand firmly by that Jalen Hurts should not be benched. This isn't, and we'll get more into that later in the week and later in this show, but I don't think that is the way to go. One thing that I'm kind of working on that came up in the Clashing Conferences Discord chat yesterday that was intriguing. A New York fan, I guess a Knicks, Giants, Mets, Rangers fan, if I think I have all the 4 teams right, essentially said that Philly fans are spoiled. And my first reaction was like, are you out of your mind? Are you nuts? And then kind of took a step back and thought about it. There is a generation of Philadelphia sports fans that are spoiled. You got guys like me from my generation who grew up in the late 90s or late 80s, early 90s, where it was hard. It was tough to be a Philadelphia sports fan. The whole curse of Billy Penn and all of that. But I'm kind of working on something for January because it got me thinking, like, the most spoiled fan bases, and are we spoiled? And I'm hesitant to say yes because the number of championships speak for themselves. But as he was breaking down his argument for his teams, the Mets always choking. The Knicks haven't won something in how many ever years. The fact that the Rangers have won 1 Stanley Cup in 85 years or whatever. I think it is 85 years. The Giants just being the Giants for the past few years really got me thinking. So I would love to know your thoughts on that. Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. But I am working on something. I'm not quite sure what yet, but I think, like I said, it's a very intriguing concept, a very intriguing comment that triggered me, quite honestly. And then once I got past the emotional and started thinking about it rationally, I'm like, maybe there's something to that. But let me know your thoughts. I mean, I stand firm on the fact that, especially if you are either a late Gen Xer or a younger Gen Xer or an early millennial, you certainly have not been spoiled. But love to know your thoughts on that. Yesterday's trivia question. Jalen has the dubious distinction of setting the Eagles record for turnovers in a game with 5 on Monday night, including 2 on one play. He broke the previous record of 4, and I asked you which 7 guys set that record. Well, that was Donovan McNabb, Carson Wentz, Mark Sanchez, Kevin Cobb, Michael Vick, AJ Feely, and Mr. Dream Team himself, Vince Young. A lot of people got most of them. A lot of guesses for Sam Bradford in that. A lot of guesses for the Detmer brothers, Bobby Hoyne, Brad Gable, all got votes, but it was Vince Young was the final one. So thank you to everybody who attempted. We had some fun with that yesterday. All right, Flyers with a 4-1 win over the San Jose Sharks yesterday. Good, solid win. 4 different players scored goals, including Travis Konechny, who also added an assist. That assist put him over 500 points for his career with the Flyers. Becomes the 17th player in Flyers history to score 500 or more points while playing for the Flyers. So congrats to Travis Konechny. No time to celebrate, though. They're back at it tonight down at the X against the Vegas Golden Knights, looking to keep the momentum they've been having rolling. All right, let's do some quick housekeeping. Be sure to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and then continue to spread the word as we're growing this thing. All of those things, likes, subscribes, views, comments, all of that helps us outsmart the algorithm. And again, I like where we're at. I'm looking for big things here in 2026. So whether it's subscribing to the YouTube channel, even if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can get in the mix for that. Still not too late to donate to the 3rd annual gift and food drive benefiting the Mattie N Dixon Community Cupboard. Going to take a trip over there on Friday with all the stuff we're collecting. So if you're going to donate, every little bit helps, and I'll be able to buy some more stuff for them. But today's reverse advent calendar item of the day is ground coffee, any flavor. But let's go help make some holiday magic happen. We've already donated $200 worth of gift cards, so thank you for that. And then today's random act of kindness. This goes a long way. As somebody who's trying to grow, I wouldn't necessarily call this a business yet, but grow something organically, all of those things help. So staying in the random act of kindness world and leaving reviews, post a positive review online for a small business or a non-corporate business in your area, whether it's a restaurant, a gym, whatever you're doing, post a positive review because those things help. Even when I'm looking for something, I always look at the Yelp and Google reviews and kind of get a good sense. So all of that stuff goes a long way. So on this day, Wednesday, December 10th, go leave a positive review for a small business or a locally owned business to help boost their online presence. Want to show off your Philly pride without saying a word? Philly Goat has you covered. From tees, hoodies, shoes, and hats, their gear screams Philly louder than an Eagles fan at the vet. Whether you're tailgating in South Philly or trying to flex down the Jersey Shore, do it in style. Hit up phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery, and get 10% off your order. Philly Goat, because being Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. Go Birds! All right, it is Wednesday. That means it's What If Wednesday, brought to you by Lotwin. Go to lotwin.com. Use the promo code TCCPOD to get your 3D custom hype chains. Great gift idea. If you're not sure what somebody wants, I'm sure they'll work with you and give you a gift card or whatnot. But these things are amazing. Make a great holiday gift. Great gifts for the office. So go to holiday. Lotwin.com. Use the promo code TCCPOD to take 10% off of your order. All right, so lots of talk yesterday about whether or not Jalen Hurts should be benched. I will go on record again for the 3rd and final time today that he should not be benched because I don't think it's that simple. I don't necessarily think this is a situation where you go into a game, especially against the Raiders, a team that you should be able to handle rather easily. Jalen should be able to get his game back on track. The Eagles should be able to get on track. I don't think that's the answer. And if you do bench him, is it for one game, for the entire season? I think it just does more harm than good benching Jalen Hurts at this point because, like I said, I don't think Tanner McKee gives this team right now, as constructed, the best chance to win. And I think that goes with Jalen. But I think by benching him pre-game like this, it just burns. It essentially ends Jalen's time here. I think you lose trust with the coaches. You lose the locker room because you have a good chunk of the people who believe in Jalen. You have some that I'm sure, according to reports, are questioning, but it divides the locker room. And I mean, sure, Tanner McKee could bring in a fresh perspective, give the team a jolt, could help possibly with the 3 and outs, but is that the solution long term? Now, if he comes out and plays a horrible first half, do you bench him for a half, a la Donovan McNabb in 2008, who came back then, and the Eagles made that run to the NFC Championship game? Possibly, because you are in a position where your season is slowly slipping away. Maybe Jalen comes out better for that, but I think benching him now essentially ends his tenure as the Eagles quarterback, and then with that contract makes it more difficult to do anything, whether it's Tanner McKee or whoever. So I think things get dicey. I think by benching Jalen Hurts, all of a sudden you put Nick Sirianni on the hot seat. I just think, again, if this team was not 8-5, still in the driver's seat, so to speak, for the NFC East, and to make some noise in the playoffs, if they can get it together, maybe you have that conversation. When Jalen took over for Carson Wentz, that season was going nowhere. I just think where this team is, you can't do it. And even when Donovan was benched during that Baltimore game, they were lost. They were not a good team, and it did provide the spark they needed. But I think with an 8-5 team who's in first place in the NFC East, you can't do it. But I would love to know your thoughts on that. Lots of stuff to talk about today on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. And I'm going to give you a bonus on the record. You do not bench Jalen Hurts. All right, December 10th. Let's get into it. First, we're going to go back to 1961. Eagles lose to the Giants 28-24 at Franklin Field, meaning that since it was their second loss to the Giants, it ended their run as champions of the NFL. Giants were able to clinch the NFL East, but a lot of good did come out of this game historically for the Eagles. Sonny Jurgensen threw for 367 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tommy McDonald caught 7 passes for 237 yards and 2 touchdowns, caught a 52-yarder, a 30-yarder, and then had a 66-yard completion. The 237 yards did set an Eagles single-game record for receiving yards in a game, which still stands today. But the run as NFL champions ended on this day in 1961 with a 28-24 loss to the Giants. They had opportunities in this game and just couldn't get it done. But Tommy McDonald sets the Eagles single game receiving record with 237 yards. Does lead us into today's trivia question. 1961, and that record still holds. And the Eagles have had a lot of good receivers, from Mike Quick, Terrell Owens, even Fred Barnett, Calvin Williams, A.J. Brown. A lot of good receivers over the years. Which 2 receivers round out the top 3 in the Eagles single game season receiving yards list? So who's number 2 and number 3 behind Tommy McDonald? Hit me up on the Discord channel, which is the first link in the description. You just need to accept the invitation. But who are number 2 and number 3 on the Eagles single season receiving yards list? All right, turning to the ice, we're going to go back to 1972. Flyers beat the Maple Leafs 5-2. Gary Dornhoefer with his 3rd and final hat trick of his career for the Flyers. In the process of scoring 3 goals, becomes the first player to score 100 goals for a career as a member of the Flyers. Flyers beat the Maple Leafs 5-2. Gary Dornhoefer with the hat trick, going over 100 goals for his career, becoming the first Flyer to achieve that feat. And now we're going to the Eagles and 2 of my all-time favorite games. First, we're going to go back to 1989, and it was Bounty Bowl 2, just a few weeks after the Thanksgiving game in Dallas, where there was alleged bounties on kicker Luis Zendejas and Troy Aikman. got a little bit chippy in that game in Dallas. CBS dubbed this Bounty Bowl 2. They had a whole little package and intro at the beginning of the game. But on the field, it was the Eagles winning 20-10. Chris Carter with 2 touchdown catches, one from Matt Cavanaugh, one from Randall Cunningham. Both of the defenses played well in this game. Cowboys, to their credit, they were in the middle of a 1-win season, did hang tough with the Eagles, but the game was not what the story is about here. It's what happened during and after the game that really made the headlines. It had snowed prior to this game, so obviously snow at the vet, lots of drunk people. You know what happened. Ice balls, beer, snowballs were thrown at players for both teams. The refs, even the announcers, Vern Lundquist and Terry Bradshaw. Vern Lundquist said, "I just had a root canal and a lot of dental surgery, and that was more pleasant than calling this game in Philadelphia." Even Jerome Brown was not safe from the snowballs. He was urging people not to throw snowballs, and they threw snowballs at him. This game did occur just a day after Eagles quarterback coach Doug Scoville died, so they wore the black electrical tape on the Eagles wings, and I really do think this was a major turning point, Doug Scoville dying, in the development of Randall Cunningham, but that's another story for another day. This is the game where Ed Rendell has said that he's sitting in his seats. He bet somebody $20 that he could throw a snowball onto the field. He did not. But due to them throwing snowballs at players, Jimmy Johnson, referees, the announcers, you can see Jimmy Johnson getting escorted off by Philadelphia police, covering up his precious hair so it doesn't get messed up. But they did ban the city, I guess, or the vet. NFL, I don't know who banned it, but beer sales were banned for the final regular season game against the Cardinals, as well as the playoff game against the Rams. Could you imagine, though, that happening today? The fact that just the amount of lost revenue, they would never do that. Never do that. The concession sales alone, they would take such a hit. But Bounty Bowl 2 was on this day in 1989. The Eagles beat the Cowboys 20-10. Fans showered and littered the field, hitting players, referees, announcers, basically other fans, anybody they could. Not the best moment for Philly fans as they banned beer sales for the final 2 games. Like I said, could you imagine just the amount of lost revenue? And I'm sure, as somebody who used to go to the vet and do this myself, it was very easy to sneak things into the vet anyway. So I'm sure some libations were going on inside the vet that day. And then fast forward to 1995, and it's the 30th anniversary of 4th and 1. If you're an Eagles fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Cowboys had 4th and 1 from their own 29 just before the 2-minute warning. Barry Switzer, complete and utter disrespect for the Eagles defense, and for that matter, the Eagles offense, went for it, handed off to Emmitt Smith. They stopped him, but just as the play was going off, the ref was signaling for the stoppage of play for the 2-minute warning. After some confusion and some discussion, CBS went to commercial. They lined up, went for the same play, or went for it again on 4th and 1, ran the same play, and they stop him again. And as Merrill Reese said, they give it to Smith and they stop him again. They stop him again. It's Groundhog's Day. They stop him again. Horrible Merrill Reese impersonation, but one of the all-time greatest calls by Merrill. But I think lost in all of that was the fact that the Eagles still needed to kick the field goal to win the game. Gary Anderson got it done, 42-yarder, to give the Eagles the 2017 win. Ricky Waters went for 112 yards and a touchdown. But Barry Switzer will forever live in infamy, giving Eagles fans one of the greatest Merrill Reese calls ever. And at the time, just one of the biggest wins for the Eagles during the time when the Cowboys were the dominant team. 4th and 1, 30 years ago today, back in 1995. Bounty Bowl 2 was on this day in 1989. Eagles again beat the Cowboys 20-10. Gary Dornhoefer goes over 100 goals for his career with a hat trick in the Flyers' 5-2 win over the Maple Leafs in 72. And then in 1961, the Eagles lose, but Tommy McDonald sets this Eagles single-game receiving record with 237 yards, catching 2 touchdowns in the process. All right, let me know your thoughts on Schwarber, benching of Jalen Hurts, anything else Philly sports related on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. But let's have some fun on the Back to the Future voice and text line today. Don't forget to donate. Go right to my social media, at Philly Jimbo. There's a QR code. Scan it, and every little bit helps. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for December 10th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a hump day. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.